Okay, so first off, thank you very much for sitting down with me and for being here. We're here to talk about the principle never market alone. So, my first question for you is what is the value of marketing with another company or team?
There's so many. I mean, it's hard to even put into a concise statement. If I had to start somewhere, I would start with audience. Um, Audience, relationship building, going at something alone. If you think about any type of team sport, right? It's always harder. And even if you say, well, there's some sports that aren't team based and they're individualistic based, like tennis or golf, there's still a team behind those people. The people that perform at the highest of levels, still a team. So that's how I would equate it to how I would equate partner led growth, partner marketing, that kind of same way of thinking. So now the question is like, who do you want to have on your team to help you achieve your goals and their goals? Ultimately, the team wins together. So the team has to believe, goes back to belief for me, in similar things or in the same thing for the partnership to really, really thrive.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you view like people wanting I've heard people say that partnering is like an extension of a team, right? Or like extending your company. Why would somebody who is a bigger company also want to partner when it seems that there's a lot of value, especially for small partners, small companies. What is the value for bigger companies to partner together?
That's a good question. For my sense of it, it's all about the brand and the emotional piece behind a brand. And that's where it starts. So see you have a big company and they're a 20, 30 plus year old company. That company is probably in maybe late stage scale up mode. Most likely they're in sustain or survivorship mode. Like Salesforce, I'd say is in sustaining mode now. They're not quite surviving yet, but they're sustaining. There's startup, scale up, sustaining, surviving. Those are the four kind of phases of a business. Once you get to sustaining mode, how do you get back to scaling mode or like startup mode? I think that's where a lot of partnerships can play a big role. It's also then going back on the emotional side of things, you're trying to create a new connection with a new set of buyers that you weren't maybe going after 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So don't you want to partner with someone? Like the difference between Gen Z and baby boomers, Gen Z and millennials, is pretty different. So if you're trying to enter into a new fundamental demographic segment of a country, of the world at large, going at it with a partner makes a ton of sense. Look at all these people that are partnering, or look at all these brands that are partnering with celebrities, artists, you have athletes, because they know that they have an emotional connection to that audience that the brand doesn't have. So they need to partner.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. I like that look. It's it's a lever for growth beyond what you can do. It's also interesting because like you segment yourself, as you mentioned Salesforce, you segment yourself into this brand, like this is who we are. And then it's really, really hard to go outside of it or go adjacent to it or like adapt and evolve. Especially since you've built all these processes around like what you are. And so that's really interesting. Um, so what's kind of along the same lines, there are a lot of marketers that have this idea of what marketing is, they've conflated like all of these processes, all of these tools, SEO, ads, like all of these things that marketing is. How do we go from will market with others sometimes to we're only co-marketing? Like marketing with other people is always better. How do you bridge that gap?
Well, first, like marketing is definitely not those things you mentioned, as you kind of are hinting at, as you were kind of hinting at. Marketing is about creating, shaping, growing. At the end of the day, capturing markets. That's the gist of it. It's like those four things: you either create it, you shape it, you grow it, you capture it. You do all four if you can. how do you create a market? How do you shape a market? How do you grow, capture one? I mean, you need partners. To do that alone, that would be, I mean, maybe there's a couple of companies that have done that. Those companies are like the ones that just are incredible. I'd say maybe Apple would fall into that category of creating and then shaping and then growing and then capturing a whole market. How many apples are out there, right? So, and those don't last forever either, right? Because once you do that, and once you capture the majority of the market, you're like, well, what's next? What's the next thing we have to build or do or whatever, right? Build, buy, partner, right? So it's a matter of fact that partner-led partner marketing will happen. It's just a matter of like, when will you embrace it? That's the real question.
And why do you think people have a hard time embracing it?
That's very situational, so it's hard for me to give like one answer. If I had to just generalize why people might not think about it initially, it's because first off, many people are not taught that. Definitely not in school, but definitely even in like online marketing classes, courses, programs these days. It's not a very well-known thing to be taught. You go faster the tactics versus the strategy. And I think that's also where then it makes a case for why people don't adopt it more. It's a strategy, not a tactic. SEO, blogging, those are tactics that are applicable to a wide range of higher level strategies, like partner-led, like content-led, event-led, etc. But you have to first realize that the way I'm going to go to market is going to be through relationships I build, not just with my customers, because that's definitely one of the most important ways to go to market, is through partnering with your customers and building up that advocacy and community and flywheel effect. But it's also the way I get customers, the way I keep customers, is through companies that have the same, if not similar, objectives in mind. And why it goes back to my earlier comment about why a team is one of the best ways to think about this. Even though the partner might not be on your team, the more that you can pull the partner to be on your team in the most closest, realist way, the stronger the motion will become. That's why the best channels have the folks that are operating in the channel, those partners, those agencies, those other businesses, as close as they can to the direct side of the business. The ones that are most successful have them as close as they can to the direct side, because they then philosophically believe that we need to be doing the same things, or as much of the same things we're doing to enable, equip our direct team as our channel team. And if you don't have that mindset, then it's like, well, this is an inferior thing to this other thing. So then the likelihood that this thing, the partner motion, will be more successful or as good as the other thing will just naturally be diminished because you're introducing that bias to it. So a lot of this is like, at the end of the day, just human instincts and human decision-making. It all goes back to education, I think, though. You have to educate yourself and understand why this is a good thing and a smart thing to do, and then actually how to do it.
I'm loving where you're going with this, because I was reading Seth Godin's Marketing Made Simple, and I think that was just, it crystallized in my mind, like, marketing is about change. Marketing is about, like you mentioned, it's about markets. Like there's a higher order, I guess, about what marketing is. And I think that you're right. People have conflated marketing to strategies. Like, okay, marketing is SEO, marketing is content, marketing is, and they've put these labels on all of the things that marketing is. And if you step away and you say, okay, we're never marketing alone, like that means that we're never changing things alone. We're never, going into the market alone. And I think that that's really amazing. How do you, like, applicably and practically, how do people and companies fit partners into their everyday marketing? Are you looking for partners that are great at XYZ? You're like, okay, I need to do a blog post. I need to do social media. I need to do XYZ, like, and finding partners that fit? Or how would you recommend going about that practically?
It's tough. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, you have to ask yourself, are you looking to partner with an individual, a company, a group of companies? I like to think you start small and simple, and you might do that at an individual level. You might try one or two companies, but at the end of the day, you always have to have the goal defined, the what's in it for me and what's in it for them. So if you can articulate that and, think of it as a yes, building a relationship, but it's a sale. There's gonna be a compromise between the relationship and the action you're trying to get out of that, or the mutually agreed upon action that you're trying to get out of that relationship. So you have to do a lot of planning. So, think of it as building pipeline, for a sale, and create your, ideal, partner list, customer list, if you will, right, for your partners, and think of it like that, and then go at it and start figuring out how to get in front of them. Do you have people in someone else's network at the company that can make introductions? You a friend, family member that can make introductions? Can you just do cold outreach? A way to fast track this over time, not probably initially, but over time, is to build up your own clout and influence across the relevant social site or sites, communities, where the partners are participating and listening. Sometimes you can even fast track this through customers you have, and customers can make introductions. But I think it's just pure, think of it like as a sales motion. There's pipeline. You gotta build that relationship. You gotta close the deal, make the compromise happen, and then execute after.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard to never market alone. That's one of the principles that we that Isaac wanted to cement, because he sees the value in always, like I said, going to market with somebody else, but it's hard on a processes side, like on a planning side. Like, how do you always go to market with a partner? Do you have any thoughts on that? Like on the processes side, on the system side, how do you make it possible to always go to market with a partner internally?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with that. It's not so much a process and system thing. It's a philosophical thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it goes back to my comment on beliefs. Like, philosophically, I've told my marketing team, this is one of the core ways we're going to do things. We're always going to try to find a way to partner with someone when it comes to anything we do. And then you hold that line. You just hold that line and you show people how it's done, right? So you have to lead by example as a leader. Another team might, the CEO might, but it's a philosophical, cultural thing. And that's where all of these things start. And that's where they actually become habitual and a ritual for the company.
Interesting.
And actually ingrained in the company's strategy. System process, that's it goes back to the thing we were talking about, tactics with SEO and blogging. That's just a tactic. So I don't know. That's the way I would frame it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. So then you would call BS on the fact that there are some companies that don't like partner marketing because they've had bad experiences, but maybe it's just the culture between the two, or maybe it's just one culture or another culture. And then that goes back to the belief and the philosophical, which is they were not aligned.
Yeah, in some cases. Yeah, I mean, there's a multitude of reasons why that could be, right? That could be a one-off case. It could be anything, but I don't think it's as much system and process.
Okay.
With anything, when you talk about this type of stuff, it's very much at the human level, and humans are irrational, for the most of the time. So, and they are very sometimes instinctual, but they're also very ego driven, me, this feels good, this doesn't feel good, and data can only get you so far. So it's all about that human dynamic and how much trust was either gained or lost as you do more of these partner motions with other businesses and people over time. Because the more you do and the more trust that's developed across all of those partner relationships, the more that you're going to lean into it. And if you do it a lot, and there's a lot of trust, and you have one bad incident, there's probably all that trust won't be lost. Some trust will be lost, but not all of it, right? You might have one link that gets a little weakened, but you can replace it. But if you only done a couple and it's a major incident, you lost all the trust, then it's like, time, money, energy, whatever. Like, then it's like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. So there's a lot of factors, right? There's definitely an art.
Yeah, I like that better. So why did you mentioned that you told your whole team, like, we're not gonna market alone. That's the goal. And you're ingraining this belief. When did this become such a conviction for you? When did you become convicted about never marketing alone, and why?
Probably 2010 when I was at HubSpot. Yeah.
Why?
So
Because they had such a partner network, or?
no, it was internal partnerships. It was me partnering with other HubSpot employees to help bring to life this idea of better educating our customers, adding more value to the customer experience, teaching them things. It was content camp, and then it eventually became HubSpot Academy. So
So you saw something massive come out of this one principle, and then you saw the value in it?
yeah, through all those partnerships, like I was able to get dozens of people to participate in that kind of experiment. And I was like, oh man, I could never do, if I did this alone, tried to do this alone, this never would be successful, or would have ever been as successful as it would have been. So like, you have to partner with people.
So then it's not just never marketing alone, like with partners, with outside companies. It's also an internal thing.
Oh, 100%. Yes. That's where it should always start.
I love that. I love that reframe. What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who either wants to adopt this principle and doesn't know how, or doesn't know how to practically, tangibly, like, take this from belief to conviction? Like, I'm going to, stand by this and make everything built off of this. What is one piece of advice you'd give them?
Well, I mean, you got to hit on it just in that statement, or that question was you have to believe first. So you got to get to the level of belief, and then you have to try it a few times and to strengthen that belief and that trust, and just be consistent with it, especially in the beginning. You have to be consistent, and stick with it. So no magic stuff there. It's more about the fundamentals. And if that belief continues to strengthen and you see early indicators of success and whatnot, your convictions only get stronger, your beliefs can get stronger, and it starts to create that flywheel effect for you in your mind. So yeah, I mean, think back to some of the things that you did outside of business and ask yourself, were you able to do those things? How successful would those things have been or not been if you did or did not partner with people? And you probably get your answer right there.
Yeah, my goodness. This changes everything. Because I think I saw it from an outward company perspective. And I think that making it about the internal is, I think that's the perfect place to start, because then you start to build that abundance mindset. More people is good. Let's work together. Let's help each other out, and let's become better. And I don't know. I think that that's really, really important.
Yep. Goes back to cultural, right? The philosophy and the culture of the business.
Yeah. That was all the questions that I had. I really, really, really appreciated this. This was very eye-opening.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ella. Thanks for having me.